as we left, I thought it can't get better than this. And it just kept getting better. It just kept getting better. The Israeli marketplace in Old Town Jerusalem, the same streets where Christ and his disciples and walked and ate and shopped and lived, and just history, the old and the new, all wrapped up into this beautiful land, right? So we've talked a lot about security and why we were there as far as border security, why Tom Homan and I and Victor Avila were there. But while we were there, we did have this amazing time. We were able to take breaks away from just the learning process and go visit some of the historical sites and just spend time with the locals. And by the way, great coffee, frozen coffee, Israel. Yes, number one. Everywhere you go. I didn't even ask what the calories were. Thank God it was not like America where they show you 300 calories for one drink or something, because, on a hot day, you haven't had a cup of coffee. You don't want anything hot, but you want to wake up. You need a pick-me-up. Israeli frozen coffee on every corner. It was amazing. And by the way, the people were so fun. It was from the Israeli marketplace to even places like where I was at Capernaum, or when we went up to the Mount of Olives, and, there was this really fun, touristy photo guy. And by the way, he did a great job of getting, the Temple Mount and the dome behind us, a large group picture. So just remember, you're in Israel, you want to go up to Mount Olives, you want to get that picture there before you leave. You'll find him. He's a fun guy, and he gets your pictures to you like this. So that's what we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about, the other side of Israel, right? The places that I want to take my family to next year, because I am going back next year. And next year I'm bringing my children and my husband. And it was so special to me. And I'm going to, we're going to go into this in a minute. It was so special to me just to be in the same place where history and Western civilization was born, where Christianity and the idea of monotheism, the one God, where the Israeli tribes, where the promises of God have been fulfilled. Israel is a country, once again, that was a promise in the Bible and the Old Testament. And even though we are, in so many ways, we think we're so different from one another, we're not. We all want the same things, just figuring out how to get there. That's the issue. That's where we end up in conflicts all the time. But I'm telling you, Israel is a remarkable nation. It is a place everybody should visit, and I'm going to tell you why, and we're going to have so much fun. And if you go to YouTube, Rumble, if you're listening to this, I'm going to describe it the best way I can, but I'm going to have so many photos on YouTube and on Rumble and on my social media. You're not going to miss a thing. You're going to feel like you were on the trip with me. Folks, Sound of Freedom, I've been talking about it. I want you to go see this movie on July 4th. It is a movie. It is not a documentary, but it documents what happened when Tim Ballard went and rescued all of these children from unfortunately I have to say it, a pedophile ring that was selling children, and the struggles and the reality of what happens to children all over the world and even in the United States. This is an eye-opener, folks. It will make you active and involved. And it's not one of those films. I've already seen it. I'm going to go back and see it again. It doesn't cross any lines. My friend Eduardo Verostegui did this with taste, with love, and with honor. And it is so, so important. And he wants you to know, and I want you to know, that every year, 2 million children are trafficked around the world. Now there's a new movie, and this movie, Sound of Freedom, is aimed at raising awareness to this often unseen horror. Sound of Freedom from Angel Studios. If that sounds familiar, guys, if Angel Studios sounds familiar, it's the same studios that produced The Chosen. What a phenomenal series about Christ, right? It is something that you and your family can watch. So this tells you that this movie is certainly made for you. I wouldn't, not for little kids, but for older kids and for the family. It's definitely an important film that's going to raise awareness. Sound of Freedom will be theatrically released in the United States, like I said, July 4th, 2023 this year. You got to purchase your tickets online now because they will sell fast. And the more people that see this movie, the more the film stays in theaters. New theaters are added daily, so please check the website for current information, right? Go to angel.com/freedom, angel.com/freedom. Okay, Israel, let's enjoy. We're going through the marketplace, the old marketplace in Tel Aviv. Let's start with Tel Aviv. Oh my gosh, amazing, beautiful, amazing, and wonderful. It was the beaches and the people, and there were all these guys out there lifting weights on the beaches. Kind of reminded me of Venice Beach. And I saw, like all these guys just lifting weights. I thought that was pretty fun. And then you walk along the beach, like I was going from my hotel to the old city of Jaffa. And I want you to think about this. 6,000 years old. That is how old. You can see Jaffa against the shoreline. And it's stunning. It is stunning. And the restaurants right there with, people sitting outdoors and the old boats and Jonah and the whale, Jaffa. The story of Jonah and the whale happened right there. That's where Jonah went into the mouth of the whale and escaped death by the grace of God, right? By the grace of God. So, it's like, also the Catholic Church that I visited there. This is before we're getting to the marketplace. But it was so beautiful, St. Peter's. And I talked about it before a little bit, but I went into this church and people were praying, this beautiful Catholic church. And, it was so incredible to imagine that this is where Napoleon Bonaparte, right, was at this church receiving medical treatment. From the priests at one point in time, during the Ottoman Empire. And I mean, it was just filled with history. But imagine walking through this ancient city, right? Through this ancient land. And you see the old and the new, and it's mixed together. And you smell the spices and the food cooking and the fish frying. And you smell, and it was weird because the area of Jaffa that I was in years ago, you couldn't even go in there if you were Israeli, if you were Jewish. It used to be just Arab. And there was a lot of threats. And in fact, one of the areas, it was like kind of the division line, right by the water. But it was the area where Jaffa was separated from Tel Aviv, was an area where it was a nightclub. And don't hold me on this because I can't remember how many, but there was an actual attack there. And the Russians, when they left, in the 1980s and 90s, a lot of Russian Jews left after the fall of the USSR. And they came to Israel and the United States. But this was an area where like Russian teenagers loved to party, right? They would go there and go dancing. There was a nightclub. It was right on the border. Kids would go there. They would spend the whole night there. They would be eating and drinking and, having fun, doing what teenagers do. You can only imagine. And it was their favorite spot. And one night, a terrorist showed up and it was a suicide bomber and they blew themselves up right there at that nightclub. And it became a memorial for these children. And now things are different. Now you go to Jaffa and it's a beautiful tourist place. You get your coffee, you can buy drinks, you can hang out with your friends, you can sit by the water. There's some amazing restaurants. In fact, remember Jenny Terre that used to work with me? She gave me the Old Man in the Sea. So Jenny, I have to go back there and eat at the Old Man in the Sea. I ate at a different restaurant because we were trying to hurry up and I wasn't as close. I didn't get the information until afterwards. I promise you next time I'm going to go to the Old Man in the Sea. So anyways, that was Jaffa. I also went to a marketplace in Carmel in Tel Aviv, an old marketplace. Imagine it would have been like that thousands of years ago too, but without like all the modern stuff being sold. spices everywhere, people cooking, little cafes, artisans on the street. And in Tel Aviv, that was a little different because there was a lot of artisans on the street, right? It was kind of reminded me even some areas of Paris, like when I would walk through Paris, it was just so beautiful. But there was this little corner. I've been bragging about this place forever. And I don't know the name of it, but if you go to Tel Aviv, it's in Carmel Shopping District. It's right on the outside. And it was a little corner shop run by an older man and woman and their son. And they have these amazing, like ancient kind of stoves, almost like when you see the Italians cooking the pizza and, it just fresh fire, just go putting it in there and baking, and the smells are everywhere. And they were cooking these baracus, cheese baracus. And I didn't know what they were, really. I didn't know what they were, but I saw all the young people getting in line. And so I just jumped in line because I was starving. I had just come in. I hadn't eaten. I'd come in from a very long flight from the United States, and we were touring. And so I wanted to grab just a bite to eat. And I thought, I'll just stand in line. I had some money on me. I had some shekels. And I go up, and Tom Homan's with me, and Victor Avila. Oh, no, sorry. It was Victor Avila who was with me. And God help me, I can't remember who was. It was Victor Avila who was with me. And we ended up buying like 4 of them. And Ed, and our friend Ed. And we were walking through the marketplace. I bought 4 of them, and I thought it was literally the best thing I have ever eaten in my life. Like, it was melting in my mouth. I don't know what they brushed it with. I thought they brushed it with honey, but it was like a flaky pastry with this melted cheese inside with sesames on top, brushed with honey. I think that was the trick of the trade for those guys. And now I know why every young Israeli stood in line there. It was just incredible. It was unbelievable. So we ate that. We were walking through. I was buying like some trinkets for my kids. I was like enjoying the day, and I was taking it all in and saying to myself, this is definitely something that everybody should experience. And as we left, I thought, it can't get better than this. And it just kept getting better. It just kept getting better. So going from the old marketplace, like in Tel Aviv, and, Tel Aviv's kind of hip. It's kind of like a hip place where, young people, very modern, Shabbat, not everything closes down, not really. And so it was also, when I flew in, the gay pride parade was there. So it was huge. Like, there was a huge gay pride celebration, which kind of threw me off for a little bit. But that's because Tel Aviv is different than Jerusalem. Just like in the United States, you'll have different cities. But it still has the old flavor. It still has the ancient buildings and just the most incredible beaches, by the way. Just gorgeous, gorgeous beaches. And on the Mediterranean, and the water is warm. And at night, okay, everything's kosher too. The food is kosher. But that's pretty incredible to me, because I learned to eat a different way. And I love that. I love different foods, and I love seeing how other people prepare their meals. And even late at night in Tel Aviv, people are up. They're like walking around. There was this one moment. It was so much fun. But there was like a huge group of people, like maybe 55 of them. And they were they were kind of barricaded in their own area. These are just people that live in Tel Aviv. And they came out at night. They come like after 7:00 at night on the beach, and they dance. And I think this was on Thursday night. It was a Thursday night. So on Thursday nights, they do traditional like Israeli dances, and then they do fun line dances, and they're all out there dancing. And then you can kind of join in and dance with them. And then you turn around and people are playing volleyball. I mean, so I know it's easy to think of Israel like war zone, Iron Dome, all of these things going on. But the people find a way to live and to be happy. And frankly, they're happier in many cases than we even are. They don't There's not a lot of complaining in Israel. You're just happy to be there, to be alive, to be, you're really living in the moment. And that actually came from some of the folks that I talked to, because I'm like, holy, it's late at night. It's like midnight. People are still dancing, old and young and laughing. And they said, well, we take these moments and we live them. We really know what it's like to lose everything. Or we really know what it's like to have something stripped from you. So they live life a little bit differently. It's on the edge a little bit. It's, there's the good and the bad. But the good is really, really good. In Jerusalem, it's a little bit different. In Jerusalem, it's the old city. You're walking where Jesus walked. You're going through the stations of the cross, you're seeing the churches that say, yes, this is where Jesus was crucified, or that's where he was crucified. I don't know, but I just know it was there, right? So I just feel this connection to God, in Jerusalem. And when I was in Bethesda, I think I told you guys, I went and I prayed for my husband there. It is where Jesus did the miracle of sight, where he gave man his sight back, and a very near a spot where Jesus gave the man that could not walk for 35 years, where the miracle that Jesus gave him the ability to walk again, and gave the blind man his sight. And I just wanted to take a moment to be there in this beautiful place that is actually run by the French church. The French are there, and it's so beautiful. And by the way, you could feel the difference. It was so weird going from the dome, and it was, I got to tell you this. It's not to be disrespectful or anything, but we were very much warned, like, to be very covered, because the dome is controlled by the Palestinians. It's controlled by the Arabs. And so when you walk in there, you have to be covered up. As a woman, you can't, I couldn't even really show this part of my neck. Like I had a scarf, a beautiful big shawl, not a scarf, but a beautiful big shawl in my dress. And my dress was long and everything. So I was being respectful for everyone, right? Because this is an area, a church area, and even the mosque, I want to be respectful. But the guy walked right up to me and somebody else, and he was like, you have to cover everything. Like, I was like, oh, even this part of my neck? That's so bizarre. I don't know if he was just kind of bossing me around because he didn't like our group. I didn't know why he was doing that, but suffice to say, it was a little nerve wracking, and you're walking around, but it's beautiful, beautiful. I saw the site. There's so many stories about the temple being rebuilt. What does that mean? This is the area of contention, right? This is the area of fighting. And there are some areas that, and we'll go into those, I'm sure, in later episodes, if I go back to Israel. There's some areas that the Israelis had given up to the Arabs and to the Muslims that now they wish they hadn't, because now they can't even have access to it on the Mount. But when I went to Bethesda, there was almost like a lifting, right? A lifting of spirit, like not being stressed. Like when someone takes, rocks off your back, right? A very lightness in spirit there. And there were these cute little kittens playing these flowers in a fountain, like near a fountain. And the church was there, and these ancient artifacts and these ancient ruins. And I took some time to walk down and go into the ruins, into the areas. And I was just overwhelmed with Israel, just overwhelmed with that beauty. And just knowing that that is where, we base our Judeo-Christian values on this man Christ, who was the Son of God, who lived as a man and taught us this beautiful doctrine that, that we can be forgiven, and who died for our sins. And, and this was thousands of years ago. And we also base so much of our history on the 12 tribes of Israel, right? On the way they live their lives. Our culture, the way we see things, on the 10 Commandments, right? And who we are as a people and our friendship. And I truly believe in the integration of the Jewish and Christian people. Absolutely 100%. It is a remarkable, miraculous feeling. And we should not forget that. We owe so much to our brothers and sisters in Israel. And I mean, it is just, and they are truly our greatest friends, truly our greatest allies. And, and then you think about we forget living here, just how easy life is for us in this modern age, right? I mean, it's difficult in some ways, but much easier in so many other ways. Like I was walking through the marketplace, and I think we miss out on stuff, like in Jerusalem, especially in the Israeli marketplace. Wow, just how phenomenal the old Jewish marketplace. And the spices are just every spice you can imagine in teas. They had berry teas that were like the flowers were mixed in with the jellies and the flavors. It was like they take the fruit and it's made the old-fashioned way. They just dry the fruit, put it in a basket, and then steep it in the hot water for the tea. And you got to watch out when you go there, though. Got to watch out. Use shekels, folks. Use shekels. Because if you go there with your credit card anywhere in Israel, if you're running around, you got your credit card and you try to, you're like out there, oh, I'm going to get some tea. I don't even know what I'm talking about. I don't know the exchange rate. One of the gals that we were with, she went and she bought some tea. She didn't go with the person she should have gone with, which was Isaac, our good friend Isaac, who knew exactly where to go and who to go to. And she ended up buying some tea, and I think she thought she paid $20 for it, and they charged her $200 on her credit card. So shekels, shekels, shekels. Whenever you're overseas, remember, I'm going to have a whole podcast on tips of what to do overseas. And I'm going to really be thinking this through because I've traveled so much of the world and I'm still alive. So I feel like I should share these tips with you and not keep them just for myself, right? So I'm going to do that in a future episode. But talking about, these marketplaces, when I walked through the marketplace and the people are talking and there's the hustle and the bustle and everyone's kind of moving through and you're bumping arm to arm and children are laughing and crying and, and just the excitement of being there and just knowing that our ancestors thousands of years ago were doing the exact same thing. Friends, Allegiance Gold and silver allow you to protect what you've worked so hard for and give you back the control and privacy that you need. And because reputation is very important to me, the only company that I recommend is Allegiance Gold. I love them. Thank you so much, Allegiance Gold, for being a sponsor of the show and for doing what you do. And right now, they're going to give you $5,000 of free silver on a qualifying purchase when you tell them what? When you tell them that Sara sent you. Yes, SARA. Tell them that Sara sent you. My friends at Allegiance Gold can help you protect your IRA, your 401k. Don't just trust me. Go out and do your research. They can do it with gold and silver. They can help you protect your assets. And you want to diversify. And right now you'll get $5,000 of free silver on a qualifying purchase when you tell them that Sara sent you. So don't wait. Call or click today, 877-702-7272. That's 877-702-SARA or protectwithsara.com. We can't control the Biden administration, folks, but we can prepare. 877-702-7272. That's 877-702-SARA, SARA, or protectwithsara.com. Okay, before I let you go, I wanted to share something with you. I felt like it was a very beautiful moment, and I had no idea that I was going to meet such an amazing singer whose songs have been translated into so many languages. His name is Yair Levy. He's a Jewish Israeli singer, songwriter. He's a producer. He's based in Tel Aviv. He is from the Levite, the descendants of the tribe of Levi. They served actually in the temples. He was a captain in the Israeli army. This guy right here, he was a captain in the Israeli army, a Navy SEAL for Israel for 8 years. He creates this amazing mixture of Jewish soul music with faith based on biblical values. And he started singing and wrote an incredible song for his grandmother during COVID. Anyways, his music is powerful. It's incredible. He is Orthodox and he was given permission by his rabbi. He visits churches all over the United States and sings all over the world. His website is Yair, Y-A-I-R, Levi, L-E-V-I music.com. That's yairlevimusic.com. God bless you. God bless our great nation. God bless Israel. And God bless the great state of Texas.